have something to contribute, and you can take what you have learned and turn that certainly into a kind of activism, no matter how you decide to do it. Help us understand that.
I think that is so true. I started, I've said for a long time, because I was raised by an activist, I've said I'm not an activist, I'm an advocate. I went to law school to be an advocate. And I shunned that term for so long, and then the first step to me accepting activism was when Trayvon Martin was killed by George Zimmerman. And you saw electronic activists pop up, and that's not shade, that's honest. Like, we needed that connection because I think so many of us felt isolated and alone watching this happen. But Black Lives Matter, the hashtag was created right after Trayvon Martin was killed for us to validate ourselves. Dr. King called that shedding the shameful cloak of nobodiness. It's the same concept. I am somebody is the same concept. It's like, I am here, see me. I am a man from the sanitation worker strike, same concept. And so for me, I started embracing a little bit then, and then I decided that it shouldn't just be in my mind that I'm an activist. When Donald Trump was elected, I thought it was incumbent upon all of us. Not from a political standpoint, not from a partisan standpoint, but just for human decency, right? I'm a Christian, so as a Christian, I believe in more of a social justice gospel. I don't see any red letters where Jesus is talking about the stuff that Donald Trump is talking about. Right? I just haven't seen it, and so I believe that me letting my little light shine is activism right now. And one of the same, Congresswoman Waters, this is more a question for you.
Yeah.
You were attacked by Bill O'Reilly.
Yes.
You were on the House floor, and you have given many powerful speeches.
Yes.
But this one was particularly powerful to me because you defined patriotism.
Yes.
And to me, it was one of your strongest moments, and he tried to diminish it.
That's right.
He tried to tarnish and dim your light by talking about hair.
That's right.
And the hair is always fly, okay? I mean, it's always fly. But I would love for you to talk to us about patriotism and what that looks like in the era of Donald Trump and 50 years after Dr. King's assassination.
Well, let me just tell you what I've given a lot of thought to, Angela. As I have watched Donald Trump demean us, undermine us in many ways, and as I followed his history and saw what he did when he and his father discriminated against blacks who just wanted to get a lease and have an apartment, have a unit, and when I saw what he did with the young black men in Central Park up in New York, and I've listened to him, and I know and understand his dog whistling, and I understand how some people are buying into that. The some people oftentimes are people who have lost hope. Some of the people live in small towns. Some of them have lost their jobs. Some of the factories closed down. The main street is no longer there. I get that. And I understand that. But I also understand that those of us who have been called old tax and spend liberals are the ones who support legislation that have benefited all of the people in this country, and even in many of the rural areas, the health clinics are there because we said you need to spend some money on health centers. So many of the people don't understand the legislation and the public policy that we've been involved in, that at least it kept the basic safety net under them. And when Donald Trump comes along in his own way and he says to them, you have problems because of those folks. Your problems are being caused by those Muslims who are coming from another country. I'm going to shut them off. I'm going to have a travel ban. Your problems are being caused by those people coming from Mexico. And I'm going to build a wall. And your problems are coming because all those NFL players, many of them big, black, beautiful, strong men, are not honoring the flag. And then he goes on to say, you know, he honors the flag. And he takes, you know, the flag as a symbol to utilize to basically get these people more and more agitated. And so recognizing all of that, I had to start to think about how we have been denied the fact that we're some of the most patriotic people this country has ever known. Anytime you you go off to war and you fight for a country, as some of our men did, mostly men back then, and you come home and you can't even have find a place to live, you can't have a job, but you still salute that flag. And you proudly say that I was a sergeant, I was a this, I was that in the Army or in the Navy or what have you. That's what real patriotism is all about. When you are denied the ability to sit at a lunch counter, but you don't give up on your country, you keep going back and you keep working and you keep organizing and you keep supporting your organizations because you want your country to be the best thing that it can possibly be. You believe in America. You believe that this is the best country, the most prosperous, the richest, everything. And so here we are, African Americans, who are supporting the country in spite of what has happened historically. In spite of the fact we had to start our own schools because we could not get into their colleges and universities. Despite the fact that we go on Sunday morning and we pray for everybody. That's right. We pray for everybody. And Lord have mercy, do we forgive everybody? We forgive everybody. I had to say to one of the ministers, lay hands on me, minister. Lay hands on me. Because I don't feel like I'm in such a forgiving mood right now. But we've done that. We have been patriots. And now take a look at what's going on. We have Republicans who are willing to stand with this beast, with this man, no matter what he says or what he does. You don't see them saying, oh my God, did he and all of his allies spend that time with the Russians? What were they doing? Why were they having meetings with them? Russia is an adversary. They're not our friend. So what's this connection that they have? And why is it he refuses to criticize Putin? Why is it that Manafort made his money with the Ukraine and with Putin and the oligarchs and all of that? We would not do that. It's all about money. It's about money.
About this right here.
Yes.
Because I'm sure there are a lot of people in this room, and sometimes there's a part of me that feels like this, where you're like, why should I care about Russia when my own country treats me like I'm an enemy right now? Right? So understanding that that's a part of it. I know I hear you, but I want you to tell us why we should care. Even when this democracy hasn't always served us, including right now, why should we care?
Well, first of all, I just learned that he has a nuclear warhead. if he decides to deploy, we all go. Well, a lot of the history has been lost about the problems that we've had with Russia. We are a democracy, even though we have not always lived up to it, and we're still fighting to make this democracy what it should be. You're talking about Russia. And you're talking about the kind of country where if you dare to speak out in the way that I'm speaking out, you will get killed. You will lose your life. We're talking about a country who is steeped in communism that literally killed millions of folks who are not about anything that has to do with justice and peace and involvement and all of that. And they have always seen America as its enemy. They don't like this country because we are opposed to basically communism, and we're opposed to the kind of government that does not respect its people at all. And even though we still fight for justice and we fight for inclusion, we're a lot better off than if we were in a Russia or a country like Russia. And so Putin is all about money and power. He is building up the Arctic in ways that is really frightening because we don't have a real position there. And I want to tell you just a little bit about what I think about some of these in his cabinet. Tillerson, who was in the State Department, came from Exxon. And he had already Exxon had negotiated a deal with Russia to lift the sanctions that had been placed on Russia so that they could drill into the Arctic. Billions of dollars, this contract. And so Russia is somebody and someone, and this country rather, that we should always be concerned about, because they are so different. They're so opposed to individual liberty. They don't believe in it. They hate this country. And he started the arms race all over again and violated the treaty that we've all been involved in. And now he's saying, you haven't paid attention to us for the last 10 years, but let me tell you what we have. We're bigger than you. We're better than you. And we're stronger than you. And I want to tell you, this business about who's the biggest, who's the baddest, who's got the biggest gun, this president keeps edging that on. You know, he's a bully. He has a bully mentality. He's over there messing with North Korea. That's another little bully. And they're about whose rocket is the fastest, whose gun is the biggest. And that's what you hear. This arms race is just mounting. We need someone in the presidency who not only has good sense but understands diplomacy and understands what we need to do to have peace in this world, so that we can all look forward to the possibility that we're someday going to have a world that's about peace and justice and respect for individual liberty. And so that's what that's all about.
Is that your stump speech for 2020?
That's kind of say this. Speaking of what I just said a moment ago when I talked about Pence, and I said, don't worry about him, we can knock him off. Now, I want you to know that Fox News and Breitbart and all of them are listening. You know what they're going to say? Oh, Maxine said she was going to knock off Pence. You know?
That's not what she meant.
That's not what we meant. We meant that he won't get elected in 2020 as president. So, for all of those who are listening, who's about to tell the big lie, we just cleaned it up, didn't we? And so let me just say, patriotism, we have to claim it. We have to speak about it. Don't let them deny us. And we have not talked about all that we have done, all of the sacrifices that we have made, how patriotic we are. And listen, I want to tell you, the work that we have done to strengthen this democracy must be appreciated by us first. And because we have done that, and we have worked, and we have toiled, and we have sacrificed, and we have given so much, we're going to let somebody come into the White House and destroy all of that? I don't think so. And so, don't forget, I want you and our veterans, and Memorial Day and Veterans Day and all of that, let's rise up and say, another me too. Another me too. Because we have given, we have sacrificed, claim our patriotism, and in the final analysis, when Mueller connects those dots, Angela, and he shows that there has been collusion, and he shows that there has been obstruction of justice, we will emerge as the patriots. And we want to see if some of those right-wing Republicans who've been lying about their patriotism all of these years in the Senate and in the House, we're going to see if they're going to be able to stand with them. We have the goods on them and they are revealed. And I'm telling you, even though I've been criticized, Angela, for starting to call for the impeachment early.
That's all right.
Now I'm about to be in the business of saying, I told you so. But I gotta ask you a question.
We can both ask. We doing good.
No.
That was good, right?
No more.
She's talking about no more me. That's what I want to hear.
Angela.
Yes. Okay, sit down. He said stand up.
What is the question?
More than any other question, whether it's in a DM or a response to a tweet, or just at every speech, the question is, what do I do to get involved? And for me, that is particularly frustrating because I want to get young people involved to something where they'll see real tangible results. Because there's nothing worse than feeling like you're giving of your time and your effort and you don't see change. And I know nowadays we expect for things to change as quick as our Instagram timeline, and that's just not how it works, right? Like even when we think about the Montgomery bus boycotts, that took 381 days. But we couldn't give Colin the football season. Y'all were like, I gotta watch the Super Bowl commercials. But you wanted to wear your Collins jerseys for Halloween. That's all right. I'm still gonna keep it real. And so the challenge really is, can we dedicate our time and our effort to change even when we don't see it immediately on the horizon? And so I would just encourage you all, one of the things that I do often is read. I read a ton. I read papers, I read history books. There was an article that just came out in the Washington Post, Congresswoman, about the Kerner Commission 50 years later.
All right.
And the fact that from a mass incarceration standpoint, an education standpoint, economic mobility, and I think there was one more area, poverty rates overall, we haven't seen any progress, Black people, in 50 years. And what's more maddening about that is the Kerner Commission was looking at what had changed since the Chicago riots in 1919, and there hadn't been much. So we're talking about 100 years, no progress. So it's really hard, because I think that in order for us to get folks involved, we have to be honest about where we are. And in being honest about where we are, it kind of feels like immobilizing, right? It's like, why am I going to dedicate my time to that? I've watched my family members and friends and people that I love really pour all their energy into doing something, and there's no substantial progress in 50 years, maybe 100 years. And so to that, I would just say that maybe it's because we've been asking and demanding the wrong things. Amen. I've been saying often for so many of us, and since we're in the room with folks who are seemingly activists, because this is Saturday and you didn't have to be here, here's a chant for you. What do we want? Black power. Reparation. That is not a chant, but that, I'm going, he's a prophet. Let me tell you. Okay. So,
that's who coined the phrase, Black power. That's McCarthy.
Okay, hold on. But hold on, okay. So really quick, activists in the room, I need y'all to act like you know the chant. Congresswoman, I know you know this. What do we want? I don't know, maybe it's from where I'm from. So normally you say, what do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Justice. When do we want it? Now. Reparations too, that's great. There's so many. I'm just talking about how the chant. Listen, I'm not mad at you. Black power, jobs, money, reparations. That's great. However, the chant is, when do we want justice? When do we want it now? And what I've been saying, and what I truly believe, and what I truly know has been revealed to me is that is the wrong demand. That's right. It is. Because justice is just the principle of being treated fairly. But we can't be treated fairly if we lack the ability to move our purpose. Now, Dr. King described power as the ability to achieve purpose. If we don't have that ability, because power has always been stripped from us, how are we really going to get to that end goal of justice? So we need to be saying, what do we want? Power.
What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want?
So here's the point. We have been conditioned to believe, and it's not by accident. Hold on one second, I just want to make this point. We've been conditioned to believe, and it's not by accident, that power is dangerous. That's right. And it's not for no reason. We've always seen power used against us in the form of oppression in this country. Right? So we know what it is. We know why it is. But our power doesn't have to be used and abused in that way. Our power can be used constructively to ensure that everyone in our community has the ability to achieve purpose. Yes, that's right. He's up here giving me the whole Black Panther Party 10-point plan. So I would just encourage you all to think about what we do and how we apply ourselves to ensure that we are developing an agenda designed to help us to achieve purpose. That is what it's really about. So we have to we got to do some paradigm shifting, and that's always uncomfortable. We don't like that kind of change. But we got to hit reset so that we can really attain power in this country and share that with other folks. Congresswoman Waters, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay. So there's the Tea Party.
Yes.
who said that they wanted to take their country back. The Tea Party put the Republicans in such an uncomfortable position because they were forcing them to do something that they didn't necessarily want to do. They ran people against traditional conservatives, and they moved their agenda further to the right. I don't have anything where I want to move the Democratic agenda or the progressive agenda further to the left, but I want to move it further to the black. So I just want to know if there's any way for us to stand up something that helps us with targeted solutions. That's like, a black party, but it doesn't have to be called that. So that we have targeted solutions. If we know every time in this country we try to do this big tent or we try to come up with big solutions, we get bigly, as he says, left out.
That's right.
So how do we get included?
Well, here's what I know. I think I know. When we have young black people who feel empowered and who feel as if they know something about how to get things done, then we'll have some movement. I had and still have hopes for Black Lives Matter because one of the things that they did was they stepped outside of the box.
That's right.
And they decided that, okay, so you all been going to the police commission meetings. You've been taking your 1 minute that they give you on the microphone, and you've been saying, you people haven't been doing the right thing, this is not right, blah, 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 blah. We're just going to go and we're going to disturb them. And I want to tell you, they had to stop having meetings almost in LA because Black Lives Matter wouldn't let them have them. And it really did move that commission to the point where they decided that in one of the cases that the police had been wrong in essence. And they went to the district attorney. And the district attorney now should have taken the recommendation decided by the police commission and moved on the police officers who had committed the shooting and the killing. The district attorney is a black woman. And she said no. Now, you will find yourselves in some power positions in your career. You have to make some decisions about whether or not this is the moment. This is the moment where you step outside of the box. And you step outside of the box and you're going to do something that's considered extraordinary. Different. Not going down the same path, not doing it the same way. And so it certainly is possible. When enough people, enough young people particularly, see themselves as the agents of change, and they're willing to step outside of the box and do some things differently and confront some situations differently. And I know this is not easy, and I'll tell you why I know it's not easy. Most of the young people in this room who have gone to school, who have graduated from college, I know what you were told by your parents. Now, honey, sugar, I want you to go and I want you to get a nice job. I want you to look nice and don't make any noise. I mean, just do what you're told. And if you do what you're told and you don't, in essence, talk back, you're going to make it up the ladder. And that's how you advance your career. Now, your daddy and I, we put a lot into you. We love you. And we want you to be successful. So I want you to be, in essence, and I'm kind of speaking to the women now a little bit more than, I want you to be a good girl, you know. I know how what we have done with our young people and telling them how you move ahead. That's not how you move ahead. You're smart enough. You're as smart as anybody else. I work with dumb people every day. Said something about talking to me about racism, and they said something about accusing us of not calling out blacks who have been racist, and they say that but you call out, you know, people like in Charlottesville, the KKK and the white nationalists and all. I said, are you kidding? I work with racists every day. You know what I mean? What are you talking about? And so what I'm saying to you is this. Follow your heart. If you have some instincts that are different than what you have been taught, examine them. talk with someone else and see if they're thinking kind of like you're thinking. You know what they talk about around the water fountain? Remember all that what goes on around the water fountain? Talk with some other young people and find out who's thinking kind of like you thinking. What's making you upset? What's making you feel bad? What's making you feel as if you should be further along, but there are people holding you back, and you know who they are. You know how they talk to you on the job. You've been told, be nice. You know, don't get in any arguments on the job. You know, just do what you're told. And I'm saying to you, you got to undo some of that. You got to undo some of that. And you got to go home one night and you got to be so pissed off when you say, when I go to work tomorrow, let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to get her, I'm going to pull in the back room, who has been saying all these little cute, nasty things to me. And I'm going to tell her, if you do it one more time, it's going to be me and you. Now, and one of the things you really got to do, in particular in some of these jobs, you just got to demand respect. And so, I guess what I'm saying in response to what you're asking is, I think we're moving in that direction. I see some things happening. I understand the power of millennials if they tap into it and they're ready to move on it. I understand what happened to them in the last election. Many who supported Bernie, many who were disappointed when Trump ended up being the president, and many who said, I wouldn't vote for Hillary because you didn't know that it was Russians who were telling you that she was a crook. Sophisticated technology is misleading a lot of folks. But you're smart enough to figure that out. And I want you to use everything that you know to advance this agenda. Young people who are working in these banks and financial institutions, redlining is starting all over again. Don't you be a part of that mess. I know that you have the job there, but you call me, you call somebody and say, let me tell you what they're doing in terms of these applications that black people are making for these homes. We have right in Missouri a big, big revelation about what is happening with the bank. The bank there, they are denying the applications, the mortgages rather, of black people, even though they qualify for them in every way. Whether you're talking about the debt ratio or whether you're talking about the credit scores, whether you're talking about the income level, only to find out, exposed by a local newspaper after investigation, that they are simply redlining and not letting blacks into certain neighborhoods. If you see something like that happening where you work, you call somebody and you talk to us and you let us know what's going on. I want you to use your power in any and every way that you possibly can. Whether you're working in a bank and you see something going on, or whether you see some people who are filling out this loan application. Young folks, don't you let your grandmamas fill these things out by themselves. You read those applications and you sit down and you talk with them about it, because that guy sitting behind that desk in that bank, he's not going to tell them the truth. And so you have got to use what you are learning, as some of our mothers and grandmothers would say, we ain't sending y'all to school for nothing. Use what you're learning in order to help move us forward, in order to empower us, in order to make sure that we get treated right, that we get rid of discrimination, that we are using not only our brains and what we have learned, but our God-given talent to change what we are experiencing far too often. And so I think we're on the verge of that.
From the audience? Yes, ma'am. Millennial. She said millennial. This millennial has a name. What is your name?
My name is Tiara Chambliss, and I'm at Georgia State University, and I'm an intern for the Georgia Legislative Black Caucus. My first question
Mic on straight. Come over here, sister.
That's going to be the mic. The question is mic.
I have two questions. You mentioned about the
Speak up.
charge that organizations have in this fight. I'm a member of National Council of Negro Women, and so I want to know, what do we need to do as young members of our organization? As young members of our organization to help with the fight, help our people, get our members involved. And then my second question is how gracefully you, Ms. Angela, and the Honorable Congresswoman Maxine have gracefully closed the gap, the generational gap. And that is a big problem when it comes to activism and trying to get everyone in, and, you know, including young people and older generations. How do we do that?
I want to take the second part of the question. So for the second part of the question,
She moved.
I know, right? Sorry, I don't. Can you hear me? Move the mic from the speaker. Let me try this. Can you hear me on this one? No. Well, let me just project it.
Come on, girl.
Okay. Come back to this. So on the, no, none of them? Okay, I'm just gonna project. Okay. So, as it relates to closing the generational gap, bridging that divide, I think one of the most important things is understanding the importance of playing your part. And playing your part may be different depending on the audience. Just like in public speaking, they tell you the first rule is to know your audience.
That's true.
So just one and the same, I think young folks often, we're conditioned to believe that our elders are going to immediately be threatened by us. So we'll go into spaces defensive. And when you're defensive, you can't hear. Right. And when you can't hear, you can't learn from wisdom, right? So I think that's the first thing. We have to shed our defensiveness so we can understand the lessons. When I tell you this Dr. King book, he doesn't just have a speech called Where Do We Go From Here? He has a book called Where Do We Go From Here? It is the same thing we're experiencing right now. So just like I can learn from the wisdom on the pages of Dr. King's book, I can learn from the wisdom that's sitting right here. And so that's the first thing I would say. Now to my elders, I would say to you all, just like I say to a lot of women audiences when I speak, my presence shouldn't intimidate you to the point where you think it's a competition. I am here to further advance our collective agenda. Can we try again? Oops, sorry, Mark. I'm here to further advance our collective agenda. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm not here to intimidate you. I'm not here to replace you. You are irreplaceable. Your contribution to the community's legacy is already sealed in stone. So everything that you learned, all the blessings you've received so that you can impart that wisdom and share those gifts with young people.
That's right.
So that's what I would say. It's really about understanding your purpose, playing your part, and ensuring that I'm just here to further advance. I'm not here to undo. I'm here to further advance. And if we can embrace that, we shed our insecurities.
That's right.
We shed our fears.
That's right.
In some instances, we shed the self-hate, right? We can move a collective agenda along. Right, so I hope that you see that even today. I'm honoring Congresswoman Waters because she's a boss. I want to be like, I'm not all the way at 38.
Thank you, Angela. But let me just see this. You said that you belong to the National Council of Negro Women. And maybe y'all are trying to do things like Dorothy Heights did.
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Do that anymore.
Can't do that anymore. As a matter of fact, I have said to my staff, we are not going to simply have town hall meetings in the way that we have known them to be historically, where we get up and just talk to them.
That's right.
I want to bring some dances back, you know? Let's have some music. Let's do something different. And for the young people, I want you in your gatherings and pulling people together is to bring your creativity with it.
Yeah.
If in fact, you know, you need to bring out some art, and have some artists talk about what they do for part of that program. I just saw a young black guy who was a fabulous tap dancer. He gonna be in my next town move, because I'm gonna open up the meeting with him. Let's do something different. That's right. Let's think about what you know young people like, and let's do that. And I said to Angela earlier, I've discovered that the millennials like an open mic. And so when we go to Busboy and Poets in Washington, we have open mic where you just get up and say what's on your mind, what you're thinking, add to the conversation. So all I'm saying is use your creativity to do things and to outreach maybe a little bit different than we have done it in the past.
Over here.
Wait, can I say something really quick? You all, I know that this program and this forum is for millennials. I fully understand that. But that, just allowing millennials to speak, just undoes everything I just said. So while I think we should, if we can, give preference to the millennials, I'm also asking that we honor the folks in this room that have a question.
You look at the program, it says an intergenerational.
Oh, so then there's that. Rose has spoken.
My name is Edward Vaughn. I'm a retired Michigan of the Houston County, Dothan, Alabama Democratic Party. My vice chairman is a young white millennial, and he and I worked hard together, and we keep Roy Moore to the curb. And we went to Doug Jones right here in Alabama. But my question is, are we developing a 50-state strategy to dump Trump, Pence, everybody, all the Republicans? Are we developing that kind of strategy? That's what we got to do. We got to turn our young people, old people, middle-aged, whatever, register to vote, and let's get out to vote in the primary and vote in the general election. We got to dump them, whether Mueller gets them or not, we got to get them. Thank you.
Can't be too cute. If you got some fire, let it come out, okay?
So can I want to respond really quickly to, thank you so much, sir, for your thoughts and your question. I just, again, from an internal facing strategy component, I want us to ensure that what mobilizes our community is an agenda that works for us. Our agenda has to be heard. That means that the party has to embrace it. And so again, I just say that it's time for us to say, what do we want and how are we going to ensure that that's made manifest? We cannot rely on other folks in elected office. Again, even in Memphis, I was just there, they have a white mayor. I'm not saying that white mayors are bad, but that one is. And all Democrats are not your friends. Republicans are much worse. But let's understand that we have to hold people's feet to the fire to do what we want them to do. So we have to understand what that is.
Let me just say something. I want to thank the sisters in Alabama.
Yes!
In getting the attention of the DCCC and the DNC. Keep showing out because you're leading the way. Thank you.
Jennifer Gibbs, and I'm here from Washington, D.C. I have been a volunteer with the Parent Support Group of the Department of Youth and Rehabilitative Services. I'm here with parents of incarcerated youth in Washington, D.C. But you know what? I was sitting over there in that corner. We arrived about an hour and a half early so that we were so excited about everything that was going to be going on here. So we wanted to be on time. And the people on this front row here, I be sitting on the front row, but I don't understand how people who come in late they thought that they were entitled to stand in front of the people on the front row. We love you. Everybody wanted to be here. But what makes you think that you can come in late and you are entitled to stand in front of me so that I can see this? I'm working with a millennial in Washington, helping him to start his own business. Oh, sure. Sure. Okay. I just want to say that we need to learn how to treat each other.
All right.
Amen.
My name is Camille Bennett. I'm founder of Project Say Something of North Alabama. We're a racial justice org, and I am a black woman doing activism in Alabama, doing it in my own way. Caught a lot of flack from black people because my board is predominantly white, but let me tell you, that's where I live, and that's who came, and we're still doing our thing. I get a lot of young people who come to me and say, I want to do something. I want to start where I am. I don't want to go to college because I have friends who went to college and they don't have a job yet, but I still want to be an activist. Angela, you said your parents were activists. What can they do?
Again, it's the what can we do question, and I think the first thing is, the one thing that college gives you the opportunity to do at least is intern, right? And most folks aren't going to hire an intern that graduated from high school but didn't get any other experience. So I would say at least go to college to help you figure out the journey. I know that some of you are saying it's expensive. Maybe we supported Bernie. He had a free college plan. I digress and just say real quickly that would have hurt a lot of HBCUs. Okay. But I just want to point out, yes, thank you HBCUs, but you got to go to one first. So I need you to go. I think you need to practice. You're not going to figure out what you want to do by standing on the sidelines, examining what everyone else is doing. You have to go try your hand at different things. I tried to work at law firms. I did not like that experience. I worked on Capitol Hill. I loved that experience. I loved it so much that I started a firm to continue to engage Capitol Hill and do social impact work in community. But I think you have to first try your hand at something. Young people say all the time too, how do I get to be an analyst on CNN? I'm like, where's your experience? You know, you can go be an anchor, like if your training is journalism, then you can go be an anchor. But if you want to commentate on something, you have to have something that your opinion is rooted in. Your opinion is rooted in your experience. So go get your experience. I know tuition prices are too damn high, but please go and do that.
Trade school.
Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America.
And Cobra.
And Cobra. Waters. The global reparations movement is advancing mightily on the planet. Our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean are suing the nations of Europe that had involvement in the enslavement of the Caribbean. In Europe, our brothers and sisters in London are crafting legislation. On the continent of Africa, we understand that there will be a major reparations conference in 2019-2020. Here in America, the only federal legislation, the federal push to have this country address the crimes against African people has been H.R. 40. H.R. 40. And Congressman Conyers is no longer there. We need someone to stand up and push this legislation forward. You have historically been a supporter of this legislation. We ask that you co-sponsor now, not only co-sponsor, become an active co-sponsor. You have a relationship with the millennial, as Dr. Maxine, that no other congressperson has. And we're in Congress, personally, right now, today, asking you to become more active in the role to push H.R. 40.
I'll be happy to do that. That's no problem. Where we need to go on this issue and other issues, we've really got to understand that 2018 is important to taking back the House and taking back the Senate. And of course, we've got to get the White House. Now take a look at what this president just did yesterday. He woke up and said, I'm going to change all the trade policy in the world. And someone pointed out at the same time that he's trying to get China to be of assistance to us in keeping down the nuclear warfare that's being created by Kim Jong-un over in North Korea. He doesn't understand you can't start a trade war with China and then expect that you're going to get some assistance from him in dealing with this issue. Why do I say this to you? That presidency is so important. Leading on the public policy initiatives in this country. Don't forget, he presents the budget, we react to it, etc., etc., etc. He is talking about a number of things that we all disagree with. If we want to get to the point where we can get reparations, we've got to have the power to do that. Number one, by having a supportive president would be wonderful, but taking back the House would be absolutely wonderful. And so, yes, I'm Maxine Waters. I am a progressive.
Yeah.
I am a liberal. I am someone who is willing to step way outside of the box in order to do what America has not done. But let's understand, I need you all to register and vote. I need to take back that House so that we can have a majority in the committee. I am the ranking member of the Financial Services Committee that oversees Wall Street and HUD and all of that. And by the way, we're going to take care of Ben Carson. We got 30 more minutes. Okay, it's hot in here. Love y'all. But this is important. Every year for 25 years, and I've been doing this 25 years, I've never gotten a group that would be true to getting the names of the people who are here. I need you. I'm sending out a sheet because the group that was supposed to do this are not here. Everybody in the group doesn't have to give me your name. So if you're here with a group, give me one contact person. Because we don't just commemorate Bloody Sunday. We were in Washington on the Hill fighting for the renewal of the Voting Rights Act. We were in Mississippi. We started the Vote or Die campaign that helped to defeat. So we need you to let us know who you are, your organizations, so that we can keep up with what you're doing and you can get emails from us and what we're doing. Y'all please don't leave here without doing that. One last announcement. This is free. The breakfast this morning was free. The thing last night was free. But y'all, this cost us, even though we didn't have to pay this beautiful sister a thing to get here. There are a lot of people we do have to pay. We didn't have to pay this sister a thing to hear, the freedom singers. But I need you to go to that festival when you leave here. It's just $12. It's going to get you 2 shows. All Day Today with Regina Bell singing Oh Yes. And tomorrow, another gospel show to honor Dr. King. So don't just come here and do the free stuff. If you want to help keep the Jubilee alive, that's right. At least buy a paper for $1. Okay? Here, views of patriotism and democracy. And the third verse from the national anthem is in your condoning slavery. Yeah. Read this and teach it to your children. Do something. Okay. This about Ben Carson and now.
Come on.
You know, he is redoing his office. He's contracted with a table, dining car company or whatever. For a $31,000 dining table. While they are slashing HUD and absolutely not putting together resources to deal with the homeless population. Now, this is what I want some of you to think about. He's a Republican. He's a proud Republican. And he got appointed by the president as the secretary of HUD. So he thought he's in like when. We can't get hearings on a lot. But now that he has spent $31,000, black man, they're about to have a hearing on you. And And they're not gonna only have a hearing on you in the 31,000, they're gonna have a hearing on you and whatever you did with your son and involved in some kind of contract. So I just want you to know, if you think you're in like Flynn because you want to be different, and you don't want to be a Democrat, and that you're in with the Republican Party, you're in until you make a mistake, you do something wrong. And while others have not been punished, they're gonna get you.
Just one other thing you mentioned, and everybody's doing well, we know it's warm, but we're gonna get to everybody. As the papers are being distributed, and we ask for your contributions, I just want to acknowledge one person that you might even want to be incentivized to take a paper from. In '63, his mother was arrested here in Selma demonstrating she was pregnant. This is the first Jubilee without Dick Gregory. This is his youngest son. So, I just want to say this, we can't become so self-congratulatory that we can't be humble and pass out papers. So Dick Gregory's son is here to move these papers. So raise your hand, he'll come to you, and you can get a paper.
And Martha, let me just say this. If you love Dick Gregory,
I love it.
continue the work that Dick Gregory did. That's right. Okay. When my father passed, about half the people who know me called me and said, I didn't know you were Dick Gregory's son. Why? Because he raised me to do the work. If you love Dick Gregory, you don't have to share his blood. Share his legacy by continuing to work. And it's not like, definitely don't leave here without one of these papers.
My name is Bernie Coleman III. I am a public educator at Wilcox Central High School. I teach English and public speaking. And I mean no offense when I say this. If I offended, put a band-aid on it. Stronger than Democrats, stronger than Republicans, stronger than any politics, I care about educators. Right now, I'm in the midst of situations where I have to see educators get discouraged and leave the industry because our government isn't exactly trying to support us. Meanwhile, we're the educators. We are the ones that teach everybody how to do every job in existence. So my biggest question is, I guess it's a two-part question. When did going into education to try to empower our nation become the equivalent of going straight to hell? And what can a brother like me do about it to make sure that not only my fellow educators stay in the game and actually give a damn about our students, but make sure that our students know that, hey, it's okay to be successful, be black and successful, especially in education. I'm losing my students that said they want to go in education.
Well, first of all, brother, you can't separate politics from education. Number one is, look at Betsy DeVos, your education secretary, who wants to do away with public education, wants to privatize education. And so you have to understand that you need resources, and you're absolutely right. The Republican Party at one time wanted to do away with the Department of Education. So number one, no matter what you think, and you can have whatever options you want, stand up for public education. Stand up for those educators who go into the system. There's some things that the system would have you do that you shall not do. You shall not put this kid out of your classroom who's 7 years old and talk about suspending him because you can't handle him. Brothers and sisters, you can handle any of our children if you really put your mind to it. So you want politicians who care about education, who will want to spend the money on education, who will support teachers' salaries, and who will support you in doing the job in the way that you should be doing.
On this, sir, Vernon, that's not right?
Call me B.
B? Okay, sorry, B. There's one other thing that I want to utilize your question for you all to pay attention to. The Supreme Court just heard oral arguments for a case, AFSCME versus Janus, or Janus versus AFSCME. And I think it's important for you all to understand that black folks have always been connected to the labor movement because the labor movement, labor unions were literally our pathway into the middle class. And I think one and the same, you said, what can a brother like you do? This is part of it. Ensure that the folks who are educating our children are always protected. That doesn't mean that bad teachers get to stay in school, but it certainly means that the teachers who are growing discouraged because they don't feel supported by a system have an apparatus to ensure that they always feel like they're not alone. Janice, that case where this man feels like his First Amendment rights are being somehow taken away from him because he has to pay some aspect of union dues so that he can have collective bargaining power, which is ridiculous. It's a right-wing case that they've pushed and funded. We have to ensure that we understand we are not past the point of having to unionize and work together to protect all of our collective rights in the workplace.
That's right.
So I would just say that's another piece of it, and I think that if you paid attention at all to who else is in your space and maybe a part of a union on the ground here, you won't feel so isolated. And it may be a way for you to move your agenda along by participating with that membership.
Thank you, brother.
Good afternoon. My name is Kia Brown, and I'm from Sacramento, California. I currently attend Tuskegee University, and I've been living in the town of Tuskegee since 2010. My question is, every day I drive past this statue that sits in the middle of the square of Tuskegee. And to my knowledge, it is the last Confederate statue that's standing in Alabama. There were people who moved to get it taken down, and I'd like to get it taken down. How could you help me get that removed from the square? Because while some people may not feel that it's just a statue, it is what it is, it's symbolism. And so there were people who came wanting to get it removed last year, and people who came to rebel that, people who've never seen it didn't look like us, and who pretty much are telling us it's going nowhere. So me being from a political city, Sacramento, about 60 miles east of Oakland, where the Black Panthers were formed, how do we get that eradicated? That's a huge problem.
Let me tell y'all this, a bit of information. The Alabama legislature passed a law this year that says you cannot change the names or remove any of these Confederate domestic terrorist statues. And right here in Alabama, right here, our majority Black city council actually gave an acre of land to honor the founder of the Klan. And me and some other sisters were arrested for just standing in the council asking to speak. Instead of being able to speak, we were arrested. So that's the stumbling block here, that the legislature has passed the law. That's why you can't miss it.
Gotta flip these seats.
No, I don't think anybody said there's nothing. I think the reality of it is sometimes, well, I'll say this. First, on the point that Rose just raised, and I say this often, I said it about Omarosa, I'll say it about this city council who gave this acre of land. All your skin folk ain't your people. So if folks are standing in their way, cloaked in brown skin, Ben Carson, whoever they are, move them out of the way. So, and I agree with, I understand what you're saying, the frustration of seeing a symbol of hate every day, that is a form of terrorism for us, right? And so it's not just symbolism, it's a big deal for us, and I applaud you for saying, me alone, I want to figure out how I can get rid of this. We have to make sure the laws are changed, which means we have to understand where our advocates are, which means you got to find someone to sponsor a bill to undo the legislation that Rose just talked about. And then you can work on getting the actual statute.
Go truck, man.
So the young people need to run off and flip these seats with.
How you doing? My name is Lady. Born and raised in Alabama. I live in Birmingham.
Speak right up.
I live in Birmingham, and I came down here to hear y'all speak. But you talked about the path to power, and it made me think of, I just recently joined a board of a Rotaract club in Birmingham, which is the largest in the world. And this is our first diverse board and the first Black woman on it. And it made me really think about where the power lies and what is directed. And we actually sat down and looked at boards in Birmingham and where we can make influence. And I feel like there's a lot of us that are not sitting at that table to know where we can make those changes. So what pathway do you see or you see that we can do as far as strategizing to get on board of directors?
That's extremely important, and the Congressional Black Caucus has that as one of its priority agendas. And so we're meeting with corporations, et cetera, and we're examining their boards. We're looking at them and talking about diversity, diversity, diversity. And so you have to continue to challenge that. And your elected officials should play a role in that. You should get in touch with your elected officials, many of whom are voting for legislation that will benefit these corporations without asking them for anything but a campaign contribution. So one of the things you need to do is engage them and ask them what can they do to help you to get diversity on certain boards. That's extremely important. The other thing is, you know, Jesse Jackson used to lead an effort by buying one stock.
That's right.
And going to these meetings and challenging them about their diversity. So you're on the right track.
Don't do it.
And since you mentioned boards, and the young lady who was up here earlier, she said that she's sitting on a board. She started an organization, and that some people are criticizing her because the majority is white. And so when you create boards, always make sure that you put people on the boards who share a certain philosophy, so that you won't end up with your board voting against what you organized for in the first place. Doing good.
Hi, my name is Zuriel Reed, and I'm a recent Tuskegee University graduate with sales and marketing. Okay, sorry. My name is Zuriel Reed, and I'm a recent graduate of Tuskegee University sales and marketing. Sorry, I'm so nervous. I'm so grateful to be able to speak to both of you and ask my question. So basically, I just recently kind of accepted a temporary opportunity. Since Tuskegee doesn't have like a formal commencement in May, I'm like temporarily there until I actually graduate. And so I just kind of realized, just working with XYZ company, that in a roundabout way, just being, I guess, just a black woman in a financial services setting. I really want to be a financial advisor. I really want to help underprivileged communities and people. And I think my struggle has been, and you talked about it too, which is obviously just educating yourself. But now I'm in survival mode. Like, I've graduated, and so I have to do what I have to do to survive in the most simplest way. So what tips could you say for, I guess, just anybody, men and women, my age, that just graduated and is, you know, entering the workforce? How, just, I guess, that fine line in between doing what you can and with the resources available to you, but also not becoming complacent.
Well, you just described it, and that is doing what you can. We have to always be in a survival mode. Right. We cannot allow any situation to cause us to give up, to be a victim, or to say, you know, when am I going to get out of this? You get up every day. Right. And you say, I'm going to win something today. You get up every day, no matter what yesterday, and said, this day is going to be better than yesterday. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to have a plan. I'm going to do that. Even when you're tired and you go to bed at night, get a good night's sleep, and get up the next day. You're right. You may be in a survival mode right now, but don't let that bother you. Take it, and I tell some of the young people who say, Ms. Waters, I don't want to work for McDonald's. No, if you don't have a job, you don't have any money, you go to work for McDonald's. And you figure out how you can own one of them one day. And so what I'm saying to you is, have a plan, have confidence, and know what you deserve. But take what you can now, and you keep building, and you keep working, and you keep knowing that you're going to get there, and you will.
This historical giant, and I can't let him talk too long. But after you, I want everybody else to ask their questions, and I need some help. I want you to record the question of this young man. Everybody's going to record a question, okay? So everybody's question will be asked. And I'm really sure that if we run out of time, I know these sisters, and then I got another sister, another little sister. I'm sure they will answer them on email or something. So after you, Mikasa, we're gonna let everybody ask their question, but then she's gonna take your question, everybody can take a question, we're gonna make sure they get the question, okay? Now give it up to this hero.
First, I would like to say that it's very clear that Africans, people of African descent, are catching hell all over the world. I just left the continent of Africa last week, and our continent is still being raped by Europe and the United States. There are thousands of trucks rolling through Africa with our natural resources, our fruits and everything else, taking it out of Africa, raping Africa, and sending it to Europe and other parts of the world. The whole world is on Africa's welfare. Now, since we Africans, yes, we feed all of them, they couldn't make a car without Africa. And I want to just say one other thing, that we are the smartest people in the world. We gave civilization to the world. We gave schools and universities, mathematics, science, chemistry, engineering, biochemistry, nutrition, physics, law, philosophy, music, math. We even gave God. We told the world that was a God. We Africans. Now my question, I would like to ask my sisters, both of my sisters. Young lady, what's your name again?
Angela.
Angela.
Yes, sir.
Who owed me a hug?
I got it.
I would like to ask Angela, what would it do? I mean, first I say, should we be afraid of black power? And what would be the benefit if African people united all over the world for black power? Could we solve our own problems? Because we continue to run to the West and run to the Democrats, the Republicans, the capitalists, the imperialists, and beg them to feed us, and they're the ones that starve us. Can we feed and clothe our own self like the Chinese do? Can we solve our own problems? And my second part of the question, that's the first question, but my question to my honorable congressman, senator, is that what would be the great benefit of a United States of Africa? If Africans unite and become a strong power like China, what would be the benefits of it? So I have two questions. The benefit of black power, the benefit of a strong United Africa.
I think he made the argument already. You know, I think that we have to have power. We have to not just reclaim our time in Congress, but we have to reclaim our time. And I think we can't be afraid of it. One of the things that Black Panther, the movie, how many of you all have seen the movie? I did. What does a world that we create look like if colonization never touched it, right? Think about what it could mean if we rejected colonization, if we rejected oppression, and we just moved fully forward into our spiritual, economic, political gifts. What would our world look like? And so I think it's very clear. I don't have to argue much more than that. So let's just get it. Let's go get it.
All right. No. Let me just say that, yeah, as Angela said, you really did answer the question. Of course, that would be extraordinarily powerful. But you know, I have hope. I'm so pleased about what's happening right now in South Africa. You know, we worked so hard to get Nelson Mandela released from prison, and he became the president, and the ANC kind of fell apart. But Cyril Ramaphosa has just been elected president, and I see a new path, and I'm hopeful. Now, Nigeria, we got to do something about it. They got to stop. They got to stop abducting these women. And so the United States has not played a role at all in saying anything to Nigeria. We have Frederica Wilson from Florida who has organized us, and we have some actions we take every Wednesday. And just as we thought we were making headway and girls were being released, now we've had another big abduction of women. And so we've got to put that on the public policy agenda when we get a new president.
So if somebody's ready to write this question out, we're going to do, everybody's going to come up, ask a question. Not a good speech, please, but just ask a question. They'll be done, and then at the end, they're going to answer all of those, right?
Yeah, I'll give them a benefit of a picture though. When you ask your question, you can come stand there, and when all the questions are answered, y'all gonna be able to take a picture with these people.
Get my picture ready.
Okay.
I'll get my picture. Nobody take my picture. All right, stop.
Hey. Come on, man, work with me.
Okay, we need more time to do. Come on. Hey, put the picture down.
Come on, y'all. Don't do me like that. You just gotta go.
All right. Somebody write down the quote. Who's writing down? You got it.